Okay, so I think we are live. If you are joining us from anywhere, hello and welcome to the very first Penfold Ask Me Anything webinar. We've been putting loads of posts out on the socials and also through our emails. So if you've got a question about pensions and you're joining us, then this is definitely the place to get out in the open. No need to be embarrassed about anything, however simple it is. Speaking for myself, I knew for many years I was just not interested in talking about pensions. It felt like something that I had to do rather than wanting to do. However, because I now work for a pension company, I wish somebody had had the conversation with me sooner, primarily because I'd have a lot more savings than I do now, and I might be able to start working sooner. But if you're wondering about our pension company, we are Penfold and we're a new kind of pension company. So essentially, we tried to get rid of everything we didn't like about pensions and made ours fit a bit more for modern life. So brought it into the dragged pensions into the 21st century. So we don't do difficult. We try to be jargon free. We definitely try not to be boring. And probably best of all, the app that Penfold produces sits on your phone, just like your bank account does. You can check in to see how much you've got saved anytime without having to, resort to a cupboard and find some folder where you might have a bit of paperwork. But better than that, the app can actually help you figure out how much you might need for when you stop working. And we're not going to go into how it does that right now because we need to get on with the questions. But if you're interested, you can go to our website at getpenfold.com and you can follow the links. So I've got with me my two colleagues, Laura and Murray, who are our experts today. They've got years of pension knowledge stuffed into their brains. So how do you both feel about being our experts today?
Hopefully good.
Yeah, I hope I can answer some questions today.
Loving the confidence.
Being positive.
Okay, good stuff. All right, we're going to get straight into the questions. The first one, the absolutely first one we received from the registration forms is from somebody called Jack Coppas. I hope I pronounced your name properly, Jack. And Jack asks, does having a private pension affect how much you will get from your state pension when you will retire? So, Laura, I think you're going to take this one.
Yes, I will. So first of all, thank you, Jack, for the first question. In terms of the private pension affecting your state pension, so this is not true. So it's not going to affect anything at all because these are two separate pensions. One is your private pension that you personally put into, and the state pension is what you get from the government with the qualifying national insurance record that you have. So you'd need to have at least 10 years of national insurance record, and this does not have to necessarily be in a row. It can be all in separate years, and if you have, for example, a few months missing, you can also pay into the missing national insurance contributions.
Okay, how would you find out about your national insurance contributions if you're not sure?
You can find them out on the government website.
Okay, nice one. And there's a difference in ages between when you get the state pension and when you get your own personal pension, is that right?
Sorry, could you repeat?
Is there a difference in the age that you can take your state pension and your own personal pension?
Yes. Yep. So for the personal pension, so right now it's 55, but it will be 57. And for the state pension, I believe it's 66. Am I correct?
66 currently, yep. Murray, can you confirm 66?
Or 68, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess that's a bit dependent on politics and the government.
Right. Yeah. So keep an eye on that.
Yeah, that's very true. Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much, Laura. Jack, I hope that answers your question. The next question we had was from Sylvia Kowalczyk. And again, Sylvia, I hope I pronounced your name correctly, but the question is how you can find or how you can look for your previous pension provider if you don't have any details or contact or name for it. So if you've lost the details of a previous pension, how would you find that? And Laura, I think you're going to take this one as well. Is that right?
Yes, I am. So thank you for Sylvia for a question as well. So we have in Penfold this tool called Find My Pension. This is a magic tool that can help you find the details of your previous pension provider. So if you know the employer that you had previously, you just put in the employer's details and we will give you the details of the previous pension provider. We will need few more questions. So we will need your national insurance number and policy number. So if you don't have those, you can find them out by calling finding them on your email. So you would have your pension provider information from your employer, or you would have them from the pension provider directly. Check in the chunk as well, because it does get lost in there sometimes, knowing from my own experience. And also there is if you cannot find it with our tool, there's also on government website, there is a tool that you can locate your old pensions that can help you find out the details of your previous pension provider. And yeah, so I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think so. It's probably worth saying, isn't it, that when if you do have a Penfold pension and you have the Penfold app, it gives you the option, I do know some details, or I don't know some details, and then it will take you down the sort of process of finding out things through either of those channels. Yeah. Okay, great. All right. Thank you again, Laura. I think, Murray, it's finally your time to jump in. We had a question from Joachim, and he asked whether pension consolidation, so this is where you've got several pensions or some old pensions, whether it's the right thing to do, so bringing them all together. So he says, what's wrong with having multiple pensions?
Yeah, I think this is it's a good question, and it's something lots of people have and lots of people struggle with. Like, one of the beauties of getting a pension set up by your workplace is that you automatically have a pension, but one of the kind of slightly kind of downsides is you end up with lots of different pensions. So I guess the kind of short answer is it depends. But I guess there isn't anything wrong with having multiple pensions. It's ultimately kind of down to you. I think there's a few things we always say to kind of think about and consider when you're thinking about consolidating your pensions. So one would be understanding like the type of pension you have. You might have a special kind of pension called like a defined benefit or a final salary pension. And if you have that, and if you transferred or consolidated, you might lose some of those benefits. So it's worth just understanding if you have that. But most people will probably have a defined contribution pension. So that's the other type of pension that's often set up by a workplace, sort of just a big pot of money, essentially. And they can, most of the time be transferred relatively easily. But it's sort of up to you to make that decision ultimately. Other things you might want to think about are like the fees that you're paying. So each pension scheme you have will have different fee structures and things like that. So having them all in one place means you obviously you can understand the fees in a lot better detail. Same for like the investment options and the fund performance. If it's all in one place, it's probably much easier to actually track that and check that rather than having to check in like multiple different locations. And then the final one is a bit more administrative. Like, you obviously have to log into all these different systems to check your pension if you have multiple pensions. It means when you do come to retire, you'll also need to access all your different pensions from all these different pension providers. And, for example, if anything were to happen and you need to pass your pensions on or anything like that, then obviously it's kind of more paperwork to deal with multiple providers. So yeah, it's sort of weighing up that decision. There's lots of things to consider. But yeah, I think for a lot of people, the sort of administrative and the kind of ease of engaging with one pension provider kind of helps them with consolidation. But yeah, it's definitely worth checking like what type of pension you have. And if you have questions on that type of thing and you're not sure, then I think the Penfold team should be able to help.
Yeah, sure. It's worth saying that we've got some articles about this on our website as well. If you need to kind of refer back to any of those, and just from Penfold's point of view, I mean, again, with our app, Murray, if you've got our app and you have other pensions, how easy or difficult is it to consolidate pensions through the Penfold app?
Yeah, definitely once you've decided to consolidate your pensions, it's very straightforward. You might be in the situation like we were just talking about with Sylvia and Laura, where you need to actually track down like who that pension provider is. But I think once you know where the pension is, and hopefully you have a few details like maybe your reference number or policy number, all we really need to do is hand that over to Penfold. Sometimes you don't even need your reference number. You literally just tell us, hey, I have a pension with, I don't know, for example, Nest or something like that. And from there, like the Penfold team take care of everything from there. So the actual administration for you as an individual is very, very low. Once you've decided that's kind of the right thing to do.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much, Murray. Okay, the next question is from somebody called Oliver Burton, and he has said, what funds, in brackets, if any, are Penfold invested in? And will I be, it's kind of two questions here actually, but maybe we'll take the first one first. So what funds, if any, are Penfold invested in? And I think, Murray, you've put your hand up.
Yeah, I can take that. So right now there's a kind of range of fund choices with Penfold. We have different levels of kind of growth fund options. So we call them our sort of standard funds. And then we have the same kind of growth levels fund choices, but they're what's called our sustainable funds. So they're all managed by BlackRock, the asset manager. They will be a really broad mix of kind of investment products, essentially. So that's things like stocks and shares and bonds and some other kind of like special financial products, basically designed to grow at slightly different rates, depending on your preference and like where you want to be in terms of your kind of your targets and how far away you are from retirement and things like that. But essentially they're very diversified investment options. So you'll be through this, your money will be spread across like hundreds of different companies and investment products. The idea being that, you know, this is your kind of retirement savings. So you want to have relatively stable kind of finances. You don't want to see like huge jumps that you might be thinking about in terms of like things you see in the media about like investment products and cryptocurrencies and things like that. So we have them, they're managed by BlackRock. And as I say, there's also sustainable options as well. They have all the same principles, but they put an extra kind of filter over those investment options and before deciding to invest in them. And that looks at all the different companies, like certain sustainability and social metrics, and it either decides not to invest in certain companies that don't meet certain sustainability and social metrics, or it'll try and weight your money more towards companies that perform better on that kind of spectrum. Another kind of cool thing about Penfold, I guess, if you have the app, is that you can actually see exactly where your money is invested. So we'll show you down to like the company holdings that you have. So you've got 0.01% of your pension is invested in XYZ pension scheme, XYZ company, which can be really helpful and interesting for people who are quite interested to know where their money is invested. And we also let you vote in those investments as a shareholder and things like that. The one other point just to say is we also have a Sharia investing option as well. That's not run by HSBC. That's not run by BlackRock. It's run by HSBC instead. But yeah, so we have a Sharia fund as well that invests in line with Sharia rules and laws.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks, Murray.
Again, take the second one as well, if that's helpful.
Yeah. We'll go to that one. But yeah, just to say again, like if you need any more information about a fund, I mean, we try and make it all as transparent as possible. So you can find those on the website, and as Murray says, you can find that through the app if you're already a Penfold customer. But yeah, let's go on to the second one. Are people penalised for drawing down on their Penfold pension pot before they reach retirement?
Yeah, so in general, you won't be able to access your pension pot before you reach the retirement age. So as Laura said earlier, it's 55 right now, it's rising to 57. That's a sort of government and pension law and rule. It's not something that we really have any flexibility on. There are extreme circumstances like health care, like if you have a kind of health issue and like terminal illness or something like that, sometimes there can be options there. But in general, you can't access your pension until then. And I guess I would be very wary of anyone telling you otherwise, because that's a government law and rule that we can't kind of change or be flexible on. And that's true of all pension providers. It's not just Penfold. Like every pension scheme in the UK will have to abide by the same rules.
Okay. I wondered if this question was hinting at if you reached the age of 55 and you wanted to draw down your pension, but you carried on working, are you able to do that?
Yeah, you can, exactly. And it's really common. Lots of people will still pay into their pension once they pass 55. They might not have either they maybe don't have enough, or they want to keep saving, or lots of different personal reasons. That's quite a personal kind of decision to make. And it will depend exactly on your situation and your finances and things like that. But yeah, it's quite common for people to kind of keep paying into their pension. Some people, well into their kind of later stages of their life and career as well.
So keep paying into it, but also be able to draw down from it at the same time?
Yeah, so you can do that as well. Yeah, and there's different options for drawing down. I think there might be a question on that later on, which we can kind of cover. It is, probably one of the more complex parts of pensions, so there can be like quite a lot of different options, and you only really have to do it once in your life. So hopefully, it's a time to like pause and reflect and kind of get as much help as you need.
Okay, well, let's get to that one before we finish today. But I'm glad to say that we have had a question in the comments, and it's from Emmett OD. And Emmett, thanks for your question. Emmett says, for late pension starters, any tips for maximising your savings pot if you only have 20 to 25 years to save for a private pension? So I've heard a lot from Murray. Laura, do you feel you would like to have a go at this one?
I think Murray will be able to give a better answer on this one.
Yeah, sure. I think, well, firstly, good to be already thinking about it 20 to 25 years in advance. Some people leave it till 6 months, so you're doing very well. But it is, yeah, obviously you want to maximize as much as possible on the pension pot. I think for me, if you're in a workplace pension scheme, understanding your employer's offering can be really important as well. So if your employer offers, well, if they do, there'll be an auto enrollment scheme and they'll be at least paying in a certain minimum, but understanding if they do any matching or they will increase their contribution or anything like that. And just making sure you're kind of maximizing the amount you can get from your employer, I think is a really, really important one. And if not, then maybe you can kind of petition or push them to try and be as generous as possible with their pension scheme. But that's a really big one because that's essentially just extra money from your employer. It's worth understanding as well that you get kind of tax relief on all the money that goes into your pension. Any contributions you make as an individual, you get tax relief back on that. So depending on your earnings, it can be extra lucrative to put more money into your pension scheme if you earn over like certain tax thresholds and things like that. And it's pretty specific, so we probably can't go into like all the details here. But that's worth kind of making sure you understand. There's some blogs on Penfold's website about like the different thresholds and what you can do there. So I think they're like probably the main ones to try and get as much money as possible into your pension pots. And then I think, obviously, understanding trying to like keep on top of the fund performance and things like that, making sure that the money's kind of going well for you and working well for you, I think is really important as well. But that's, I know you can't predict the fund performance, but I think it's just making sure you're kind of on top of that and it's growing as much as possible. Okay, excellent. Thank you, Murray. Laura, I think you've spotted a question in the comments that maybe you want to have a go at. So yeah, Laura, let's hear from you. What was the question you were looking at?
So I was looking at the question from Jane R about that's the one that the pension has been underperforming. In terms of the advice, unfortunately, we cannot, in Penfold, give you any advice on the funds, whether you should change it, whether you should keep it, because it's a financial advice and we're not authorized to give you any advice, unfortunately. We can guide you to government website where the financial advisors are available, and there's also advisor companies available that can help you choosing the risk that you can take with your funds.
Yeah, sure. And Jane, it's probably worth adding that we publish monthly performance reports, both online, and I think you can access those through your app as well. It's worth remembering that pensions are long-term investments. We put this in the monthly reports every month. And, because of the nature of the financial instruments, they do fluctuate short-term, but really with pensions, it is sort of a long-term, 25-year or more, investment usually. So it's just something to consider. But as Laura says, we can't actually give you advice on what to do. Okay, I think we're going to go back to some of the questions that came in just beforehand. So Murray, you hinted at this before, but I mean, lots of people wonder how they're going to do this. When they get to the age where they want to start working and they want to start drawing their pension, how do they do that? And what sort of options have they got for doing that?
Yeah. Yes, it's a good question. We talk so much about like trying to get as much money in your pension as possible and how it's this great thing to save for, but what actually happens when you need it out. And there's a few main options. These are yeah, no, depend on your circumstances and what kind of suits you better. But basically, kind of one of the key options is that you start to draw down from that pension pot. So, you can access the money in that pot now. There's different ways to do that in that, because you'll be drawing down and you'll be receiving an income, that money is essentially taxed like an income. So broadly the same way your salary is taxed. So you can either take one big lump of your pension tax-free. So you get 25% of it tax-free. So you can take one big lump of whatever in your pension pot, and there might be like financial and personal reasons you want to do that. Or you can take money out and then the remaining amount all gets taxed, and you take that out probably monthly to fit in with your lifestyle. Or the other option is you just withdraw monthly and 25% of that monthly amount is tax-free, if that makes sense. Again, there's a good kind of Penfold blog explaining it in a bit more detail. But yeah, so that's kind of your main options if you want to draw down. There's another option as well where you can kind of buy what's called an annuity, which is essentially like a company guaranteeing to pay you a certain amount of money based on how big your pension pot is, and then they'll also look at factors in your lifestyle to try and kind of predict your sort of lifespan. So Penfold don't do the annuity, but you can use your Penfold pension pot to go to usually an insurance company who will provide that annuity. So yeah, it's kind of different options, and it'll depend a lot on where you are in your life and other financial situations as well. It's probably one of the times in your life where maybe looking at something like financial advice could be really helpful. If you can't afford financial advice, there's also like government kind of tools online on the Money Helper website. But it's definitely, it's a really important decision on what you'll do when you come to access your pension. So it's definitely one that's worth kind of taking some time to get as right as possible.
Yeah, I guess the problem is for people there when they're trying to think about how they're going to take their money is that if you're doing the drawdown thing, you obviously don't know how long you're going to live, but the annuity will pay you a certain amount every year until you die. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it'll depend on what you want to do, and yeah, that's quite a personal decision that we can't tell you like one of them is right or wrong because it'll just depend on your sort of personal circumstances.
Okay. All right. Great. Thanks, Murray. So we've got a question from Gibson in the comments, which I think Laura's going to address. And it's, what's the tax rate when at 55 years old, I start withdrawing from my private pension pot? And do you pay tax on your state pension? So a couple of tax questions there. Yeah, Laura, go for it.
Yeah, so for the when you start withdrawing, so you have your 25% of tax-free that you can take out from your pension when you withdraw, and everything will be taxed as an income going forward from that. So at the moment, I don't know how old you are, so I don't know how much your tax will be, but it will be the moment's income tax. And in terms of the state pension, you would be taxed as you would have an annual allowance. Sorry, my tongue is starting to get twisted here. So you have your personal allowance, and this is for this year right now, 2023 to 24, it's £12,570, and you only pay income tax that is above it.
Okay, brilliant. Again, if you need to refer back to, we're trying to do as many questions as we can, and, but if you need to sort of refer back to the answers to any of these questions, there's a good section of our website which you can find some of this in. Let's try and squeeze in Hannes's question. So, what happens to my pension if I move permanently abroad? And do I need to wait until I reach retirement age to withdraw my funds? Sorry, so Hannes has managed to get 2 questions for the price of 1 there. But yeah, what happens to my pension if I move permanently abroad? Who would like to take this one?
Yeah, I can maybe take that one. And yeah, so there's kind of two most likely situations, I think, in this case. So one is that there is a government list of overseas pension providers that the UK government basically says are sort of equivalent to a UK pension provider, and you can transfer between them. It's called the QROPS list, if you Google it. And yeah, so basically if you have a pension on the UK QROPS list and then on the whichever country you're trying to transfer to is also on that list, you can make a transfer. I can't speak to every single country, and some countries aren't represented on there, and sometimes there can be like, costs and considerations involved in that. So but that's definitely something to explore. The other option is leaving your pension in the UK and accessing it from abroad, which is quite common as well. And a lot of people do that. Obviously, you need to consider like how you're actually going to put that into your bank account in another country and things like that as well. So you need to kind of think about that, but that is quite common as well. Lots of British people retire in other countries, and they're drawing their pension from that they've kind of got in the UK over to another country. Like I think a lot of them will just be transferring that like once a month or something like that. So again, there might be costs involved in that, if it's like currency exchange fees or things like that. But yes, you can still do that and access it abroad.
Okay, and I've been in Penfold for 6 months, and I've never heard of QROPS. So how do you spell that, and where do people find it?
It's like a acronym, QROPS, QROPS. If you Google like gov.uk QROPS or something like that, it should come up. But yeah, it's obviously quite a specific list of countries and pension providers.
Okay, and I was thinking about QROPS so much, I wasn't sure if we got to do I need to wait until I reach retirement age to withdraw my funds?
Yes, yeah, you still need to. You can't access them any earlier because of that. You still need to wait till retirement age.
Okay, all right, great. Emmett, I can see your question about poor health. We answer that one separately because we'd like to give Anne-Marie a go. I think Anne-Marie's written in. Does the tax-free element start at first drawdown? I think it's when you're taking your pension, even if you're still paying, and I hope I paraphrased that question correctly, but yeah, does the tax-free element start when you first start drawing down your pension? Is that clear to both of you?
I think so. Yeah, I think the quick answer is yes. Like the tax-free element will kick in as soon as you start drawing down. Yeah, because as you like, even using the right pension jargon with crystallizes. So yeah, that crystallizes the pot, and then you're kind of starting the tax-free allowance then. And then if you're still paying in, the pot will continue to grow. So any drawdowns will be subject to the income tax, even if that's money you've put in after you started crystallizing it, is my understanding. It's quite a specific question though, so I'm happy someone to prove me wrong either on this call or elsewhere. But yes, I think your understanding is correct that the tax-free element kicks in as soon as you start drawing down. Even if you're continuing to pay in, like once you're drawing down, that amount will also still have income tax applied.
Okay, and let's talk about tax relief while we're on this subject, because it comes up a lot. So for example, if you had reached 55, you had started to draw your pension, but you're still continuing to pay in amounts to your pension pot, can you still get tax relief on the amounts you are paying in, even if you are at the same time drawing down? Yeah, Laura, you're nodding, so I'm hoping you're going to go for this one. You might be muted, I think.
I am so sorry. So for every personal contribution that you make into your pot, you will still get tax relief on those. So in Penfold, we apply for every personal contribution, we will apply for tax relief. And this will take around 6 to 11 weeks to arrive into your pot. So we apply it to the HMRC, and then it will come to your pot magically. So you don't have to do anything.
Okay, brilliant. And so, yeah, the 25%, just to explain that. So, I mean, for example, if you put £1,000 into your pension, the government tops it up with £250.
Yep.
Or £100, £25, etc., etc. Okay. Let's see if we can squeeze one more in. We've got T. Lewis. Does having an irregular income penalise the saver in any way? If you put in 25% of your pay 1 month a good strategy, or does irregular working patterns? I think this is a question about, is it better to pay regular amounts into your pension, or does it matter if you pay irregular amounts?
Yeah, I can try and take that. So yeah, I interpret the question the same way as Lee, that yeah, this person, I can understand people don't always earn the same amount every single month, which it sounds maybe like you're in that situation. I mean, I guess in short, no, there's no like pension reason this is bad and or like negative or anything like that. Like you're still getting the same amount of tax relief, your money's still getting invested, you know, all that kind of is still happening in the same way. So there's nothing kind of negative from that sense. I guess there is, you know, some people prefer to put their money into like an investment product on a like the same cadence, so monthly or weekly or whatever it is, quarterly, because they want to try and like, you know, smooth out any like ups and downs in the stock market or in their investment product. But bear in mind, your pension is potentially a 40-year, maybe longer, depending on when you start saving, you know, investment product. So the difference between monthly or quarterly is maybe not going to make as big a difference as it would in like a 1 or 2 year investment product. So yeah, that's just something to consider. But yeah, I don't think there's any kind of like negative reason for being project based as well, especially if you're being disciplined with putting a certain percentage in every month, which kind of sounds like you are.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Murray. Well, we have reached the half hour that we originally allotted to that. If you're still with us, thank you so much for joining us during Pensions Awareness Week, which it is this week, if you didn't know. Thank you to Murray and Laura for being the font of all knowledge when it comes to pensions. We do have to say that, as ever, when it comes to any kind of financial investment, please remember that your capital is at risk. So that means your investment can go down as well as up, and you may not get back what you put in. We have had a lot of questions for this webinar, and that's a really nice thing for us. So we will definitely look at doing some more of these webinars. And if you did submit a question either in the comments today that we didn't get to or via the form when you registered, and we didn't answer it here, we'll be in touch with you afterwards to see if we can answer it. If you didn't manage to get a question in today and you'd like us to try and tackle it, you can find us on your favorite social media channel and we'll do our best to give you an answer. But for now, thanks so much for joining us for our first ever Ask Me Anything Penfold webinar, and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.